All right, chat. Beautiful. Beautiful chat. Beautiful chat. Absolutely beautiful chat. Absolutely beautiful chat. What is up? What is up to everybody hopping in the stream, man? We are officially on this. I decided to change it a little bit. We changed it up. The time to panic video is no longer. Let me make sure this chat is working, bro. Oh yeah, we're good. We're straight. What is up to everybody hopping in the chat, man? We are officially in. What's up, my guy? Yo, Dev, what is good, bro? We are officially in this live stream. I decided to change the time to panic video to a live stream instead and kind of just go over everything in this live stream. So everybody that's here, shout out to you guys because we will be going over. I like it. Yes, sir. Yes, we do have a live today. Today is a day of live streams. I'll be going over all of these games. Anybody that's watching this broadcast after the fact, shout out to you guys. You are just as important as the people in this one. It's kind of a late last second stream. So everybody hopping in, welcome to the YouTube live, man. As you can see, we're going to be going over all of these games and kind of giving a quick preview of what we just witnessed because honestly, we learned a lot, good and bad. So chat, should we start from the beginning or should we start from what just happened most recent? Let me know in the chat, guys. What do you want to see more? Brian Thomas Jr. and Sutton. Yikes. Well, we actually will get into Brian Thomas Jr. because it isn't necessarily as bad as people say. But we'll get right into Brian Thomas Jr., honestly. That can be the first thing we talk about because this game had a lot of issues written all over it. And if we go ahead and start on the Jaguar side, Trevor Lawrence didn't necessarily even look terrible. Today was fun. Yeah, today was fun. I went about 50% in my fantasy football wins and losses as far as the week goes. We still have a good amount of games left. But for this preview, bro, Travis Etienne, man, he did split with Bashal Tootin, actually a decent amount, which is a little bit worrisome. I don't think anybody is expecting Travis Etienne to be the RB1 workhorse guy all year long. It's just not something we can expect. They did go ahead and get rid of Tank Bigsby, though. And that is 100% a green flag. More for Bashal Tootin than it is for Travis Etienne, though. As you can see, he had a couple carries, 42 yards there. If we look at the receiving, most of it was... you can't even say most of it because Bashal Tootin and Travis Etienne both had an equal amount. And they also had touchdowns, too, in the receiving game, which is absolutely insane. Still 3 games left is crazy. No, it is. I think this many Monday night games, especially the one that starts at 10 p.m. Eastern, bro, I cannot do that, bro. I cannot stay up and do that because I gotta work, bro. I got things. But outside of that, I'm not panicking on Travis Etienne. It was a very positive matchup against the Bengals defense. On that note, though, Bashal Tootin is like a must roster, must have kind of guy. Because I do think at some point in the season, this will be a lot closer of a split. As you can see on the ground here, it still was a majority Travis Etienne. Bashal Tootin will get work, though. They split about in the receiving game. Their targets and their routes run out of the backfield were similar. But when you look at Brian Thomas Jr., this is really rare. People get very, very worried. You see he only had 4 receptions, 49 yards. He actually had, I believe, 9, 10 targets. He had a really good amount of targets. He might have led the team in that. But if you look at the box score, Parker Washington, 5 receptions, 78 yards, 76 yards. That's what's important. You see these guys, Yami Brown even had more usage in the pass game than him. That's not good. Now, to be fair, this is not something we need to worry about. A sneak preview into next week. We don't need to be adding Parker Washington. We don't need to be adding Yami Brown on the waiver wire this week. This is not necessarily as top heavy of an offense as the Bengals are. It's Jamar Chase, it's T. Higgins, and then everybody else kind of gets maybe 1 or 2 receptions after that. But these guys are not people we want to be adding because we do have Travis Hunter. Now, talking about Travis Hunter, he had a really bad game, fantasy football-wise, 3 receptions, 22 yards. But when you look at the snap split from what he played on defense to offense, It was a massive difference. He played 6% of his snaps on defense in week 1. I believe that went all the way up to 23% here. He actually played one more snap on defense than he did offense. I believe it was 46 out of the 72 offensive snaps and 47 of the defensive snaps, which is like insane. So, yeah. Yeah, Parker was balling. Parker was balling. Parker was 1,000% balling. The thing with Travis Hunter is it looks like it's going to be a case-by-case basis. Some weeks he's going to be on majority offense. Some weeks he's going to be splitting defense a lot, which is what we saw. The only weird thing is they did put him on Andre Yoshivas a lot and like not T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, which makes sense because Travis Hunter is a very undersized, he's decently undersized for a corner if you're going up against guys like Jamar Chase. But then again, why keep him on defense if you're going to be on Andre Yoshivas and like playing the zone there? But that's none of my business. My business is to decide on what we're looking at. And Travis Etienne is going to be a start until further notice with Bashal Tutin. Travis Hunter is going to be a spot start, but we have to look at the matchups and decide it there. But yeah, shout out to everybody in this chat, man. All 15 of you guys are absolute goats. I decided to start doing Are We Panicking? Yes or No live streams, instant reaction to these games instead of a whole video about it, so I can put out more videos for you guys. So if you are in the stream, quickly hit that like button. It's free to you. It takes 2 seconds, but it helps me out, and possibly more people could see this live stream as well. But you guys are actually the real goats. If we look here at the quarterback situation, Joe Burrow, the man is injured. The man has turf toe. And I'm a little bit worried about that. Now, we see Jake Browning come in and be completely fantasy viable. I believe he put up over 20 fantasy points. Maybe I should bring up the sleeper stats so we can actually look at the fantasy point production. But Joe Burrow didn't look amazing when he was in the game either. We have to be completely honest about that. And then Chase Brown did terrible. In NFL terms, it was decent usage, 16 carries. That's really, really good. He was the only running back, as you can see, to get carries. Only 47 yards, though. That doesn't always turn into fantasy points. And you can see in the receiving game, he got 2 receptions. Like, that was it. That was it. Nothing was doing for Chase Brown on the ground. Now, Jamar Chase, on the other hand, put up almost 40, I believe, fantasy points, 165 yards. We knew he was going to cook. It's the Jaguars defense. Mike Gesicki got a little bit of usage. The tight ends got more usage than I expected, but nothing too different here. You're starting T. Higgins, you're starting Jamar Chase every single week. The Jaguars, though, had a lot more to be said about it, and I do want to talk about this Giants game. Bro, if any of you guys had the chance to see this game, it was absolutely insane. He has turf toe with torn ligaments. Yeah, that's definitely not good. Joe Burrow is cooked, more or less, but in a respectful way. He's not that cooked. But the Giants and Cowboys, this was a shootout of a matchup. As you can see, Russell Wilson here, 450 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. What are we looking at? Is this prime Russell Wilson? I think it might be. But more importantly, you look at the running back differences. Cam Scatterbo, 11 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown compared to Tyrone Tracy at 5 for 15. This is the reason I was not drafting Tyrone Tracy. This is the reason I was making these videos about chilling on Tyrone Tracy, because Cam Scatterbo is the real deal. They drafted him for a reason. Henry sold as well. Yes, he did. Chase Brown sold me. Chase Brown sold a lot of people. This was a very positive matchup against the Jaguars defense, which is allowing top 10 points to running backs and wide receivers. The game script just didn't go that way, especially when Joe Burrow got injured. But as far as the Giants, man, Cam Scatterbo, like, he's already rostered in over 50% of leagues, but this is a guy that you're holding and you're stashing for reasons exactly like this. We did see Jackson Dart come into this game for a couple plays, and that was kind of weird. They were splitting. Even when like the game was in the hands of these quarterbacks late down the line, they were taking Russell Wilson out for Jackson Dart at times, which is honestly really, really weird. My Giants let it slip away, Jason. I completely feel you on that. I'm a Commanders fan, so Thursday night was not fun for me. But yeah, no, the Giants completely had this game. The connection with Malik Neighbors and Russell Wilson was absolutely awesome to watch. You can see here 9 for 167 and 2 touchdowns for Malik Neighbors. The target share is going to always be there. We actually did see Wan'Dale Robinson, though, have an insane game. And more importantly, I'm looking at his usage and what kind of routes he was running. He was running a ton of go routes, which is not what he usually does. In previous years, he's been more of the Demario Douglas kind of guy where you're playing in the slot, very low A-dot kind of player, yards after the catch, and, make something happen off that. Wan'Dale Robinson was kind of playing like the Jalen Hyatt role, I guess you could say. Like, he doesn't really touch the field, but when he did, that's what he did. He went downfield and ran those routes to open up the middle. But this is kind of a good sign, and this is a sneak peek for everybody in this live stream. Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy that I think we can go through and potentially add off the waiver wire. Now, we cannot expect games like this every week. If we look at Russell Wilson, he's not going to pass the ball 41 times a game. It's just not going to happen. It can't. But the good news is that the Giants have a very tough schedule, so they're likely going to have to keep the pass volume up. But on the Giants side of things, or on the Cowboys side of things, rather, Dak Prescott had his game. I was an advocate for starting Dak Prescott, but 52 passing attempts is insane, guys. 52 passing attempts. When you look at these targets, guys, the really important thing when you go to the fantasy football waiver wire and you add players off of it, it's not always the number of receptions that matters. So you can see Jake Ferguson here, 9 receptions. That's absolutely crazy, right, for a tight end. Even Turpin had 4 receptions, a touchdown. He had a good fantasy day. But when it comes to adding guys off the waiver wire, you have to understand the relativity of the target share. If this was 9 catches for Jake Ferguson on 28 passing attempts, this would be insane. He would be a must-add player. But when you have 52 passing attempts, the 9 targets is just a regular target share. I believe that's around 11-12%. So Jake Ferguson is not a guy that I'm running to grab off the waiver wire because Dak Prescott is not going to pass this much. But if you look at the running backs here, and Javonte Williams, is this guy just officially like a sleeper running back now that if you got in drafts, he's that guy? I think he might be. 18 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Miles Sanders got used a little bit. He obviously did have his goal line work and get a touchdown there as well. Working back from that fumble last week, if you know, you know, it was very, very bad in the last really drive of the game. Both of these guys are going to be used. Jaden Blue, by the way, if you guys do, or if you're aware of Jaden Blue, he is a very decent rookie running back that they drafted. He's not playing for like personal reasons, they say. In the beginning of camp, his issue was that it was all just, I don't want to say ego, but like personal things. Like he just, I guess, was not showing up to practice on time, you know, whatever it may be. And so the hype was kind of dying down for him. And then we get into the season and the same thing is going on. Like there's something behind the scenes where he's not injured. He's just being restricted and like a coach's decision did not play situation. So as long as that's happening, Javonte Williams to the moon, I guess. I'm really surprised how much they use him because the Cowboys are just not a very pass first or run first offense rather. And you do have to understand that a lot of these passing attempts, this game did go into overtime, pretty much lasting the entire overtime. So again, don't look at any of these target shares, any of these reception numbers and think these guys are like absolutely amazing in fantasy football value for the waivers. We're not grabbing Turpin. Jake Ferguson is still like a spot start that I'm not insanely happy about, but the Giants game was definitely one that I enjoyed watching, even from a Commanders fan perspective. But we go over here into the Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. These were 2 defenses that if you guys had watched the defensive ranking video, I was in on. And they ended up, I believe, doing decent, half decent. And then obviously the Seahawks defense did pretty good. But Sam Darnold here, almost 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Kenneth Walker and the running backs, though, this is really what's more important. You look at the running back situation for Kenneth Walker, guys. I don't know if any of you guys own him in fantasy football leagues. This is very worrisome. Now, I will say, you look at the running back split, 13 carries for him, 15 for Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker was dealing with a foot injury all throughout camp. He was missing a couple practices because of it. Zach Charbonnet was getting worked in with the first team. This isn't too worrisome. Now, obviously, you look at the yards per carry, 0.7 yards per carry on 15 attempts for Zach Charbonnet. That's horrid. Like, there's no other words I can say. That's just absolutely terrible. But he is a good running back still. Like, he's not just going to go out of nowhere. 13 for 135, 8 yards per carry for Kenneth Walker is amazing. Obviously, he got the touchdown. He will be the RB1. He's not going to get phased out for no reason. But Zach Charbonnet will be used still. And I expect as Kenneth Walker gets more healthy, the foot injury is just going to be less of an issue. But Zach Charbonnet is always going to be in this offense. And JSN here, another really good game, over 100 yards. Even Cooper Kupp, which I was surprised about, had a decent game. I personally still do not trust Cooper Kupp in my starting lineup. I would not add him. I would not start him. But he did good. Elijah Arroyo is finally getting his time on field over AJ Barner. The snap shares weren't crazy different. Elijah Arroyo is a guy that if you're in a really, really deep league, you can consider stashing. He will probably be in a stash video at some point in the year, but as far as right now, you don't need to worry about that. And then we go ahead and look at the Steelers side. I was expecting this offense to bring it back a little bit, They were not going to do what they did against the Jets every single week. Now we look at Aaron Rodgers, 33 pass attempts, only 18 completions. That's not great. 200 yards, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. Not surprised. Not surprised here. But what I am surprised about is Jaylen Warren looking great. Now, if you guys saw the waiver wire do not add video in the previous weeks, I was saying do not add Kenneth Gainwell. When you look at fantasy football just from a broader perspective, you just got to look down and say, are we ever starting Kenneth Gainwell? Chat, are we ever starting Kenneth Gainwell? I think the answer is no. But on the other side of it, I don't think the Steelers are ever letting Caleb Johnson touch the field after what we just witnessed. Like, that was bad. Obviously, only one carry for 1 yard, but more importantly, that kick return. He just let them get a free touchdown. And we know Mike Tomlin, he already has a bias to not liking his rookies. Like, that does not help. And I'm very worried. I'm very worried for Caleb Johnson's season long. Honestly, I'm not going to say you can drop him because that's not necessarily smart. But there is going to be a very, very long time until you can see the light of day to put him in your starting lineup. Jaylen Warren, on the other hand, again, not a guy that I'm loving to start. He is going to split with Kenneth Gainwell all season and then Caleb Johnson eventually whenever he gets into this offense. But this offense in general is just one that I am avoiding. You look at Jaylen Warren here, very efficient in the pass game. This was the one thing that I was just very impressed about. He's always been a good pass catcher. He looked very efficient and quick, which he is. But he was a leading receiver, guys. And if you watched any of the videos from the draft season, I did not like DK, man. DK, it just doesn't fit with the Steelers scheme very well. What was he thinking? I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. But DK, 3 catches, 20 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown definitely saved him in fantasy point like numbers. But like the usage, bro, the usage is not great. You see how many pass catchers in this offense got the ball. Roman Wilson, 1 catch. Kenneth Gainwell, a catch. Like, just all of these guys. DK is definitely worrisome season long. I guess where you drafted him at, it can't be that bad. Pat Freiermuth actually got a decent amount of usage with Jonnu Smith both. Jonnu Smith is a guy that a lot of people have been asking about for the waiver wire videos if we're adding him. My answer is still no. Yes, he gets paired up back with Arthur Smith again, and we saw what he did with the Falcons last time they were together. But you still have Pat Freiermuth, as you can see in this offensive chart here. Like, they're just going to keep splitting. There's no difference. Unless you're the tight end 1 getting all of the snaps, there's no reason to be starting a tight end 2. And speaking of tight end 2s, you go over here and look at the Eagles just barely holding on against the Chiefs. And you look at Travis Kelce, obviously that really big drop turning into an interception that we saw. Travis Kelce, man, this was the one game where I was saying if we're going to start him, it's going to be today. He put up 10 fantasy points, nothing bad, nothing crazy. We did not have Rashee Rice. We did not have Xavier Worthy, more importantly. And Hollywood Brown, 5 receptions for 30 yards. That is also expected, guys. I know Hollywood Brown was like a top waiver wire ad. He was great. He put up a decent amount of fantasy points. But the main success that came from last week was kind of the offense on the fly situation because Xavier Worthy went out very, very early and they had to change the complete scheme. So they kind of just put Hollywood Brown into the Xavier Worthy role and just said, all right, we'll run with it and just hope for the best. Now they had Travis Kelce. I know I talked about this a ton on the TikTok, but yeah, Travis Kelce, he was going to take that role, even if he is getting a little bit old and not as explosive as he used to be. Hollywood Brown is going to be a relatively risky start. Tyquan Thornton is not a player that I will go through and add on the waiver wire. If I do end up making a waiver wire do not add video, he will be on it. I might just consolidate that and make one waiver video and then some trade target ones just so we can get a little bit of variety for you guys. But shout out to everybody in the chat, man. All 20 of you guys are real G's. We're going over everything from week 2 of fantasy football. And this is kind of like, is it the time to panic? The video I made last week, but we're just turning into a live stream now so I can talk to you guys and go through it a little bit quicker and a little bit better for you guys. Neighbors, JSN, and Gibbs, that is insane. Abel, that is insane. If you had all that, if you played against it, I feel bad for you. But if you had that, that's absolutely, absolutely amazing. And then we get into the Eagles side. Everybody in the chat, bro, shout out to you guys. I hope you're having a good night. Go ahead and hit that like button on the stream if you could. Free to you. It takes 2 seconds. Dylan, let me answer your question here in the chat. You picked up Rashee Rice off waivers. Do I think he's going to have a big impact when he gets back? 1,000%. 1,000%. Now, the good thing about him, he's not injured. He looked really, really good in camp. he is just dealing with his own personal suspension issues. So after 6 weeks, he'll be back and he'll be perfectly fine. I expect him to bounce kind of back into that wide receiver one season. And I know on this YouTube channel, I've been so back and forth on it because in the beginning of the season, I was saying he's a league winner. He's great. We saw what he did last year. And then there was the possible suspension looming. We were like, all right, I don't really like that. And then they were saying that the suspension was going to start in week 4 or 5 or 6, something like that. And then I was out. Because if Rashee Rice is going to be suspended for your fantasy playoffs when your guys are going through waivers, or not waivers, sorry, when they're injured or going through bye weeks, like that's not what I want. But now that he's out for the first 6 weeks, yes, you draft him super late. You pick him up off waivers if he's even there, and then you wait. He's not injured. He'll be perfectly fine. He'll come back. He was doing really, really good in camp, so I'm definitely happy about that. So yeah, guys, any of you people in the chat, spam your questions. Let me know. This is also me going over the video for if we're panicking or not, but also it's a place for me to answer your questions. Do I trade Tyreek for Brian Thomas Jr.? I would. I 100% would. I was just talking about Brian Thomas Jr. earlier in the chat. I'm not too worried about him because he was top 5 this week, at least so far, in air yards. He got a ton of targets. He is getting the usage. Now, a lot of it was his fault. Like, he was dropping a lot of these passes. And to be fair, he really didn't look like he was in it. We've heard about Brian Thomas Jr. about how he's not like a practice guy. He never looks good in practice. Like, he doesn't catch a lot of passes. But when the game comes around, he looks really, really good. And that just didn't carry over today. He dropped a lot of passes. Honestly, it was a lot of his fault. If you saw Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence on the sidelines beefing with each other, that did happen. I'm not worried about Brian Thomas Jr., though, especially if we have these games like today where Travis Hunter played more snaps on defense than he did on offense. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, it's really a Tua issue, man. We can actually go to that game now and look at Tyreek Hill. It is 100% a Tua issue. Last week, he had 2 interceptions on a completely clean pocket. There was no blitz, and he threw both of his interceptions. We look at this game for the Patriots and the Dolphins. Guys, we can learn a lot from this game. So double tap the screen, hit the like button on the live stream if you are here because this is really big. Drake May looked amazing, over 25 fantasy points. So guys, next time I do this stream, I'll definitely pull up the like the sleeper charts so we can look at the fantasy point specific, so it's a lot more like in depth for you guys. This is technically the first live stream of the year, so shout out to everybody that's in the live here. We are only getting better. But yeah, when you look at Tyreek Hill, he didn't do bad at all. And I was on a live stream earlier with another creator from the TikTok. We were talking about how if Tyreek is going to succeed, or any of these receivers, it's going to be this week because the Patriots defense looked bad last week. They allowed Geno Smith to go over 350 passing yards. But they don't have Christian Gonzalez still. As long as Christian Gonzalez is out of this offense, the receivers playing the Patriots are going to be good. And we saw exactly that with Tyreek Hill. 6 receptions, 109 yards. Even Jalen Waddle did pretty good. A touchdown and 68 yards on 5 receptions. But Tua, man, I know the numbers don't look too bad. When you look at the numbers and like not watching the game, he looked decent. But he missed Tyreek on some really, really open passes. Like, there was definitely some bad decisions that were made. So when you get to play against defenses that aren't the Patriots, I am a little bit worried. I would take Brian Thomas Jr. over Tyreek Hill, but Devon Achane here, I mean, look at this. 8 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. This is why I was saying he's a league winner. Of course, if he stays healthy. He was dealing with a little bit of injury scare in the beginning of the year. But he's like a lead guy. He also, I believe right now at least, is number 1 in snap share and time on field for all running backs. Like, it is insane. If you look at last season, I believe there was only 3 running backs that were above an 80% running back rush share and usage share. And now there's like 10. And Devon Achane is one of them. Tua is cooked. He's not seeing... Yeah, no, Tua is cooked. Tua is slightly cooked. I do, in fact, guys, if you were on the waiver wire video last week, I was talking about Malik Washington. He's going to be another guy to stash even now because we look at this. Even in the rushing game, he got 3 carries for 23 yards. I mean, that's a good sign that they're using him. But more importantly, you see down here, Malik Washington. He's getting used in this offense. Now, granted, everybody was getting used in this offense. Even Nick Westbrook-Akine was getting used. But I like his chances. His snap share was still relatively high as the wide receiver 3. They did give Nick Westbrook-Akine a little bit more usage this time. And when you have a game this high scoring, you'd like him to do a little bit more. But when you look at the Patriots side of things, let's answer some of the questions in the chat. You need the Falcons to not, the Falcons should be fine tonight. The Falcons should be. I mean, the defense they're playing against is very good. I will not lie to you against that. Okay. See, chat. Should I trade Tyreek and Brees for Brian Thomas? No, I would keep Brees and Tyreek. The thing is, when it comes to trade questions, you got to realize who you're dropping, because if you're doing a 2-for-1 and you're getting two, usually I don't like giving up the best player in the deal. But in this situation, like Brian Thomas Jr. is not that far off of Brees and Tyreek. But yeah, no, you got to get some more in return. Everybody else in the chat is smart as well, helping him out. Shout out to you guys in the chat, man. But something I do want to talk about here is the running back split between Ramondre Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson, the hype was 100% there coming into the draft. But we have to understand these rookies are going to take time to get acclimated, especially when you already have guys in the backfield in Ramondre Stevenson. 11 carries, 54 yards, pretty decent. He was more efficient than all these other running backs, I guess, outside of Antonio Gibson on his 5 carries. But the good news is that TreVeyon Henderson is not cooked, guys. Yes, the Patriots put up 33 points and he got nothing out of it, but he's not cooked. He's still a very good receiving running back. He's good at blocking. And you look at the receiving, Ramondre Stevenson is not going to be the top receiver every single week. Now, he is somebody worth stashing and holding if your roster allows and he's still on the waiver wire or you have him. But he's not going to win a league unless any of these other running backs get injured. I don't think any of these running backs are necessarily going to win a league because in my eyes, it is always a committee. Ramondre, Antonio Gibson were both in a committee last year. Now you add TreVeyon Henderson to the mix. There will be a 1A, but then there's also just going to be a 1B and 1C, I guess you would call it. So just be aware of that. And you look at the tight ends here. Hunter Henry did not have a good game, but he's also splitting snaps with Austin Hooper. So whenever Hunter Henry inevitably has his like breakout game, it's not something that we need to really be worrying about right now. But right now, Drake May does look pretty good. He does look pretty good. But speaking of a tight end that I do want to cover here, and somebody that we did talk about in the waiver wire video is Juwan Johnson. Guys, is Spencer Rattler the answer? I say no. He's still searching for his first win. Ramondre out of nowhere today. I don't think they still had him on the roster, to be honest. I mean, he was the number 2. He is behind TreVeyon Henderson, but I definitely am surprised how much he got used. I think they were just riding the hot hand in this matchup. But when you look at the receiving here, Juwan Johnson, 5 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. It's funny, he drops really easy passes, but then Juwan Johnson will catch a touchdown that's like smothered. I don't really get it, but as long as Taysom Hill is out of this offense, as long as Foster Moreau is out of this offense, they're both on PUP list right now. Juwan Johnson is going to be a guy that we can go through and start every single week. We see Chris Olave actually had a decent game. Rashid Shaheed had the touchdown as well. Alvin Kamara is just being Alvin Kamara in the receiving game. That's pretty much it. And 21 carries. Like, he had a very good game, all things considered. And the 49ers defense is not soft. Again, 34 passing attempts for Spencer Rattler probably won't be normal. But you look at Mac Jones on the other side, not bad in fantasy numbers. 3 touchdowns, not a single interception, almost 40 passing attempts. And you look at the receivers, Juwan Jennings definitely had a day because of it. Ricky Pearsall, decent, 56 receptions on 56 yards, on 4 receptions. He's only going to get better. We won't have Mac Jones in this offense forever. And it looks like it doesn't matter if he is or not because he can support these guys. I mean, look at everybody that caught passes. And Christian McCaffrey, as long as he's healthy, he's going to win leagues. Honestly, yes, Juwan Johnson 100%. Dylan's asking a question in the chat. You think it's time to go after someone else on the waiver wire? I have Matthew Golden. I know it's week 2, but it's hard for anyone on the Packers to get fantasy points. I definitely feel you on that. The Packers are always going to spread the ball around, but we also have to understand rookies always start slow. You never want to give up on your rookies early, especially trade them low. If we're looking at Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed is now injured. I will be talking about this in some future videos this week. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. So without Jaden Reed, obviously you have Tucker Kraft to go for his legacy game, 124 yards. But Dontavian Wicks actually got a lot more snaps. He was operating as wide receiver 4, 3 outside of here, but now he jumps in here. I'm not worried about Matthew Golden, though. He didn't have a single reception last week, but the rookies are going to start slow. He's a guy that I'm just sitting on, and I'm waiting on the bench. Honestly, he has the surest hands on the offense, and Jordan Love looks really, really, really good. I mean, the Commanders' defense, they're decent, but like the places Jordan Love was putting the ball, it's like he's taking a step up. So Jordan Love, I'm riding the upside with him, and I'm holding on to Matthew Golden. I do also think while Jaden Reed is out, everybody in this chat, while you're here, I shout out and I salute you for being here. Romeo Dobbs is going to be a player in our waiver wire video coming that I will script and I'm about to record after this live stream. Guys, the grind does not end. If you are in this chat, please hit that like button for me because I am doing these live streams. I'm making all these videos for you guys. I absolutely enjoy it on top of the full-time job, man. This is absolutely what I live for, grinding fantasy football knowledge and statistics. Absolutely love it. I really appreciate you guys being here in the live stream. Romeo Dobbs is a guy that we're adding off the waiver wire as long as Jaden Reed is out. Luke Musgrave, a lot of the target share went over to the tight ends because of that. Absolutely. Shout out to T, man. Shout out to T. This was a relatively quick turnaround live stream. Not many people were expecting it. I'm going to try my very best to get this out every single Sunday night. Every single Sunday night that I'm around, obviously, of course, and not out watching these games somewhere else. But definitely shout out to you guys. And the Commanders on the other side of things, like Jaden Daniels is low-key injured. I'm not going to say he is, but he was hobbling and his foot was injured. He got an MRI. It's a little concerning is what they say, but probably not going to miss any more time than just a few practices. I have Burrow in... Whoa. You have Burrow in over half of your fantasy leagues. You're panicking. Speaking of that, actually, I will go ahead and add some quarterbacks in the waiver wire video coming tomorrow that we can add if you have a guy like Brock Purdy, if you have a guy like Joe Burrow that gets injured and you need a replacement, especially for week 3 because there is some good matchups we can take advantage of. So all of you guys, make sure to stick around for that video coming tomorrow around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern. Those videos always come out every week though. But Austin Eckler goes down with the ACL injury. He is going to be out, or Achilles, I believe it was. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. So it's kind of JCM season, man. It's Bill Krosky Merritt season, and we don't have a choice. They did just get rid of Brian Thomas Jr., so it's probably going to be Jeremy McNichols or Chris Rodriguez that gets bumped up. I thought it was going to be Chris Rodriguez, but he's been a coach's decision not playing. But JCM is going to be that guy. The rushing game is probably going to be hindered because of that. Zach Ertz had a really good game. Terry McLaurin is always going to be on that little boomer bust side. I was talking in the pre-draft videos that Terry McLaurin is a guy that I was avoiding simply because of his draft hype. And not really hype, but more of his price. 30% of Terry McLaurin's fantasy points last year came from touchdowns. Now you add Deebo Samuel, and look at this guy. 7 receptions for 44 yards and a touchdown. I believe that was... Like, I believe he's the top 10 wide receiver this year in fantasy points through the first 2 weeks. He's looking great. He's definitely the more sure targeted guy that's working in the intermediate slot route, which is obviously great. Terry McLaurin's taking the top off of defenses. His role is needed, but he cannot score that many touchdowns that he did last year. So it is a little bit worrisome. Tucker Kraft is going to be a great tight end as long as Jaden Reed is out. It is historic, I guess you could say, last year when Jaden Reed, when some of these other receivers go out, Tucker Kraft does take a big step forward. And then we look at this game here with the Broncos and the Ravens. Harold Fannin and David Njoku were in my video for like the must starts of the week. There was a ton of guys getting receptions here, but they were both in the top. 5 receptions for 40, another 4 receptions for 40. Like, these guys, they're splitting 2 tight end sets in this offense almost evenly. Harold Fannin is lining up in the slot. They're lining him up in line, obviously a tight end, even outside the numbers a little bit too. So these guys can succeed together. Jerry Jeudy, on the other hand, you wish you could see more from him. In this matchup against the Ravens where they put up 41 points, Joe Flacco did not look good. Now, the Ravens defense is good, but only 199 passing yards on 45 passing attempts from Joe Flacco. That is ugly, to say the very least. So I am definitely, I wouldn't say I'm panicked, but I do believe that we're going to see Dylan Gabriel actually start at some point in the season. It is almost a guarantee. And if you have Jerry Jeudy, I would like to get rid of him, honestly, before that happens, because there's absolutely no way Dylan Gabriel or any of these other any of these other quarterbacks pass as much as Joe Flacco does. So Jerry Jeudy's definitely a little bit worrisome there. And you look at the Ravens, I remember somebody earlier in the chat was talking about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was selling me, but Amon-Ra made up for it. Yeah, Derrick Henry, 2 yards per carry. Now, to be fair, the Browns' defense is really good. But Lamar Jackson, oh my goodness. Lamar Jackson, bro. Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers had a game, and then everybody else was there. Everybody was there. DeAndre Hopkins had a great touchdown. Some of these other guys getting touchdowns were absolutely insane. Over Rashad Bateman, he has actually been disappointing a good amount. Even Mark Andrews, without Isaiah Likely, you'd expect Mark Andrews to be cooking right now, and he's absolutely not. I'm not trusting him in my starting lineup anytime soon, especially with the Ravens putting up over 40 points. Yeah, I'm worried. And then you look at Justin Fields getting injured. As of right now, I don't believe we have a timeline on what his injury is going to look like. I know I started him in a few leagues, and I bite the bullet because of that, because he was out. But he did look good when he was in there. Garrett Wilson, you really can't take too much away from this game because the entire offense got flipped upside down when he got injured. Even Josh Allen had a bad game because they were up by so much. Again, James Cook did really, really good. Look at the usage here, 2 touchdowns. You can expect that to continue. I do think Ray Davis is a very good running back and a guy that I would handcuff. But again, this usage of 9 carries, 20 yards, it's not going to continue. Again, when you look at these blowouts, these guys are getting more usage than they should if it was a close game. So I'm not too worried about him taking anything from James Cook's usage. And you go over here and look at the Cardinals matchup. It's definitely worrisome for the James Conner owners because Trey Benson was used a lot in the receiving game. You see down here, Trey Benson, 4 receptions, 30 yards. I believe he had 6 targets. Trey McBride is obviously the wide receiver 1. You have Marv having another disappointing week. This is just something we can kind of come to expect. Only 25 passing attempts for Kyler Murray is not good, especially when you have these guys that need targets. Trey McBride is the wide receiver 1. Elijah Higgins, that is the other tight end in this offense, which I'm surprised got so many targets and time on field. James Cook is balling. Dylan, he was absolutely, he wasn't just balling. He wasn't just on the field. Like, he was cutting up. He was looking really, really good. James Conner here, only 1 reception. He got out-targeted and ran less routes than Trey Benson did, which I'm very, very worried about. As you can see, James Conner still owns the rushing role, but if it wasn't for that touchdown, I'm worried. And this was a really good matchup against the Panthers' run defense, which is top 7, I believe, in fantasy points allowed to the running back. So if I have James Conner, I might be looking to sell a little bit, package him in a deal if you want. I will, if you guys want, actually let me know. I will make a trade video. Luckily, I have Chase and Lamar to ball out this week. That is amazing. That is absolutely beautiful. And then you look over here at the Panthers. Whoa, that zoomed in really big. Ted McMillan is always going to be Tet. Jatavion Sanders. Bryce Young actually turned it up pretty good at the back end of the game. I mean, look at this. Look at this for Bryce Young. 55 passing attempts, guys. What in the world are we looking at? This is another situation where when you have 55 passing attempts, it makes all of these receptions and target numbers way less impressive. 6 targets on 55 attempts is not good, guys. It's not good. Bryce Young, maybe he can put it together. Again, this game was a little bit ugly, but man, I don't even know what to expect for Bryce Young coming forward because he's not putting it together right now. But guys, shout out to all of you guys in this live stream. We almost, I believe, went over pretty much every single game. We'll go over the Rams and Titans very, very quickly. Cam Ward, again, is not a guy we can add off waivers. He was in the waiver ad video, I believe. Tony Pollard, obviously going to be the number 1 until Tajay Spears comes back. Guys, check right now if Tajay Spears is available in your waiver wire. Because if he is, he's on IR. When he comes back, he's going to be a value that you do want to have stashed. And then Calvin Ridley, he's struggling because of the Cam Ward struggle. But our man, Elick, bro, we talked about him in the stash video last week. He's the thumbnail of the stash video. He's going to be in the stash and waiver wire ad video again this week because I promise you after this, 4 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown, Cam Ward was literally scrambling out of the pocket to the right and then throws it to the complete left side of the field to Elick. If that doesn't show you what kind, the number 1 thing they teach quarterbacks is to not throw across your body, and he literally did that on the complete opposite side of the field. So he's definitely a guy that I'm liking right now. Let's see. He's too big. It's going to take a while for all of these guys to actually be viable with Cam Ward because he is a rookie, obviously. But Matthew Stafford, guys, we need to look at Davante Adams because obviously he had the good game. But if you guys watch this game, I promise you Davante Adams got almost every single target in the red zone that possibly exists. When all the stats come out, I believe they start releasing them tomorrow night. You'll see the target share in the red zone for Davante Adams was insane. if he would have caught those passes, or they would have been more accurate, or the defense didn't play good, whatever it was, like, he would have had a million touchdowns because of how often they targeted him. And we just know Matthew Stafford peppers his top guys with targets, which is why these two guys are absolutely amazing. That's nothing crazy to expect. But guys, we do have the Falcons game to look at here. We need them to go crazy, guys. Do you guys have anybody on this roster? Let me know. I have Bijan in a league, but we will be getting ready for this matchup here very, very soon. I appreciate everybody hopping in this live stream. Let me know if this is something you guys want me to continue doing, going over, are we panicking, are we not? I obviously can make this into a video too, but I appreciate all you guys hopping in this live stream. I got to go script out the video and edit the video for tomorrow of our waiver wire ads. Everybody in the stream, do not forget to go check that out. And I may or may not add a waiver do not pick up video, or I might combine the two. But thank you guys so much for hopping in this stream, man. Time is the most valuable thing we have, so I'm very appreciative of everybody hopping